Hey gamers, Maniac here with GameXS.net doing another video live from, well, not really live, but straight from my arcade bar, which is still a work in progress. Now, I understand that this YouTube channel is not much for lost media. There are certainly other channels that are out there that cover lost media a lot better than I certainly could. But I like to say that while I have been enjoying those videos, there has been a lot of lost media that I've come in contact with over the years that is indeed lost, that nobody can remember, that cannot be cataloged, cannot be found, and that sort of thing. And what I'm going to be talking about today is probably a piece of lost media that nobody even is aware exists. It did exist in physical form. You could probably do a search for it, but unfortunately, it's not on YouTube. It's not available on any streaming service, and it's not available for purchase new on Amazon. I consider that to be lost. Okay, what is this? Let me paint you a picture. 19 years ago, I was a freshman in college. I was living out in California. I won't go too much into it because it's just not relevant to this particular video. And I stumbled upon what was called officially a new media class. Now, what was a new media class? Please take into account this was 2003. A lot of stuff was new media. This was before, the opportunity where people had the opportunity to basically take an Xbox, plug it into their television, and purchase stuff through the Microsoft Store digitally. It was coming. But for the most part, the theory was that most people were going to take their computers and plug those into TV. So basically, so that was basically going to be the thing. So people would basically download their movies off the internet or watch them on DVD, because obviously computers had DVD players, or they were going to basically be doing 24-hour VR gaming or MMO gaming, even not in VR. And that basically chats would it was like all the ideas for what would be the future boundaries for what would be possible with media. And there was plenty of experimentation going on even at the time. So there was plenty for them to be talking about, as well as obviously they could cover, leaps of new media even back in the day, like smell-o-vision, for example, or, that sort of thing. We read Neuromancer. It was a great class by a great professor, Rayford Gweens. Can't talk ever badly about him. He was a great professor. It was the best class I took that whole year, and I took it on a fluke. It wasn't part of my curriculum. I took it because I was transferring and I wanted to basically have fun for my last couple weeks there at school. So the moment that I knew that I was in the right place was when I got my hands on a preview pamphlet for a film event that was going to be going on the night that I transferred into that class. And I got to watch in its entirety a just recently finished documentary called Avatars Offline, which was perfectly in line for what Professor Gweens was working on. The director's name was Daniel. I don't remember his last name. I honestly, I don't remember. But essentially, the movie Avatars Offline was I would say an hour and 20-minute documentary about current MMOs, public perception of MMOs, history of MMOs, and what the future would come, or what was coming in the future. It is completely out of date by today's means, because a lot of the MMOs, obviously, that were shown in it are no longer operating. Even the one they said that is coming is obviously no longer operating. I'll get into that in just a bit. But it was a neat little time capsule, or at least it could exist as a neat little time capsule for what was available at the time. And it had interviews with a lot of the game developers, which are not going to go anywhere. Basically, the interviews that he did with some of the game developers, their opinions have not changed. He did an interview with Lord British. He did an interview with people on the street giving their opinions about role-playing games. And one of the first clips in the movie is actually him just asking questions to a couple guys off the street. And he's like, wait, a role-playing game? I thought you said these questions aren't sexual. Of course, he had to use that take, right? And it was a fun documentary. Essentially, like I said, it showed the history of MMOs, basically its origins in role-playing games, moving on to massively multiplayer games. He had an interview with Lord British where he got to see all kinds of cool stuff in Lord British's personal weird collection. Like apparently Lord British had a cross gun, which I thought was awesome. And basically a couple of other things. And what finally happened is that it ended with anticipation for what they expected to be a game that was going to be so massive it could have brought the internet down. And that game was Star Wars Galaxies. Now, obviously, when Star Wars Galaxies came out, the internet was able to sustain it. But at the time, Star Wars was the number one property. Episode 2 had come out. There was heavy anticipation for Episode 3. Obviously, Star Wars had still been seeing a major resurgence ever since the 1995 re-release on home video. And then the subsequent special edition re-releases in 97. And then, of course, the VHS re-releases even after that. So, Star Wars was at the time the number one property, a game which allowed you to basically put yourself virtually in the Star Wars universe, essentially, the Star Wars galaxy, if you will, was considered to be probably one of the most anticipated games of all time at that time. And it showed it, basically, it ended with the preview of Star Wars Galaxy. And that was it. That was how it ended. It was a great documentary. I got to meet the director. I got to get his autograph. Very nice guy. I kept abreast of his conditions shortly after that. He did attend E3 that year. That was E3 2003, which was my first E3, the first E3 I'd ever attended. Unfortunately, obviously smartphones weren't a thing at the time when he was posting that he was doing stuff online on his website, which has since obviously gone down. When he posted about it, obviously I didn't have access to a computer at the time, so I didn't get a chance to look it up until after I had gotten back to my hotel. But I thought that was, I was like, it was a great documentary. And obviously his movie was for sale. It wasn't for sale at the show. Really, I would have probably bought a copy on the spot if it was. But he did actually have the video available, or the documentary available on DVD for, I think, like $20 or so US. Well, the website's down. It's been 20 years. The website's down. The movie has never been re-released to streaming services as far as I know. I've checked. The DVD is long out of print. And as best as I can tell, I think there might be like one copy, which I can't guarantee is legit or not, that was for sale on Amazon.com. Daniel, if you're watching this, can you please re-release this movie on YouTube? Or at the very least, send me a copy on DVD. I'd really love one. If you still have any lying around. Heck, you don't have to even give me one. I'll pay for it on Amazon. Just put it back up on Amazon. I'd really appreciate that. I like watching stuff about gaming history, even if it's just slice of life, like this is what's going on. I know there are a lot of people that manufacture a lot of gaming documentaries. A lot of them just are released on YouTube these days. But this, to me, is a piece of gaming history because it is literally archiving gaming history. It's got interviews that are completely original. It's an entirely original documentary. People should be able to look it up and watch it. So that was my thoughts about this documentary, Avatars Offline. If anybody happens to find it, post a comment about it below. Until next time, my name is Maniac with GameAccess.net. Take care. Over and out.